Hello, everyone. This is Zach from GBC. Hey, we're back. We are live, this time on a different platform. Part of the reason we kind of switched away from IG is we wanted something a little bit more different, a little more interactive, and a way to really show some cool stuff along the way. For example, today we will be talking about Tour de Big Bear. Yes, I'm already working on the video right now. This is from the north side of the lake, but this happened last Saturday. It was a gorgeous day, gorgeous ride, and we'll be talking about that soon. Also later, we'll all be talking about the LA tourist race. We have made a route recon video. Vic and I are deep in discussions whether we can pull this off, and maybe Sam as well. Before I bring Vic in, a quick note, this Saturday is another Send It. We're going back up to Fairfax, but this is the route we've been trying to do all year long. When we were up there a couple months ago, we were audibled, not proper English, up to Mount Tam. Still great ride. Bolinas Ridge. Hopefully we won't have any fog. Otherwise, either case, it's just going to be epic. Now, it's a 10:30 start. The reason why we're doing 10:30 start is some GBCers like myself are going to go to the East Bay Bike Party, which is a bike ride, kind of critical mass around the East Bay. This one starts out of the Lake Merritt Station, which is downtown Oakland. It meets up at 7:30, rolls at 8. So, yes, you can double dip. And as Mike Solis calls it, it's 24 hours of send. I'll bring Vic in a second, but we also may have a special guest tonight. Also, one thing we want to encourage people to do is use the comment button. Sounds like Dom already has figured it out. And also, we're about to show, Zach, another Zach. We have it's not a no Zach's club, but we're going to see him out there again. Will he be in a gravel stoke kit? I don't know. Anyways, let me go ahead and bring Vic in.
Wow. Hey, it worked.
So, I mean, we're only like a minute in. Are you loving this new technology?
I love it. Everything works so far. Like, amazing.
Wow. We're able to show videos, go around. We even right now, we could even cut into our Google Maps and kind of do a 3D fly through, which we're planning on later about route recon for the LA Tourist Trans San Gabriel race. It's not a race, it's just a survival camp. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But first of all, I think I successfully went the whole summer without doing a GBC Live. So, Vic.
Yes.
How has life changed in those 3 months?
I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was just clamoring to get back on the platform and talk about gravel and riding, and you denied me those things. So now is retribution day. Today is the day.
Yeah, I know you even posted that you spent 3 days cleaning one of your bikes. So obviously time kind of moves at you at a different pace.
I wasn't cleaning it for 3 days. Well, I was working on it for 3 days.
Yeah, that's pretty impossible. But if anyone was going to stretch out time, it's you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I kind of want to get into this weekend. As some people may have known, I was going to head to Colorado to visit friends of the family, and a couple of days before we were supposed to go, the people we were staying with had caught COVID. So we kind of audibled, canceled that trip, but we had scheduled that block of week to coincide with Thank Gravel. It's Friday's ride out there. They had a few rides that week, and Dom and Carrie are super awesome. We did the Hawaiian shirt ride. I think it was last November down in Orange County. I can't wait till they schedule something else. Dom had got me reserved a really sweet Diverge to use the one with the suspension that's tied into the top tube.
Head
And
shock.
so, yeah,
It's not head shock.
I
Future
was,
shock.
yeah, I was super excited, and then that happened, and that totally nixed that whole week. Meanwhile, what would have been the Saturday, which would have been our last day there, I was tour to Big Bear, so I was able to go up for that, and kind of the same thing. The last couple of years, I've been meaning to do it, but something has always coincided with another trip. So this was actually my first time doing that event. But you remember when we did our gravel guide 3 years ago up there, right?
Yeah, it was a beautiful ride, and even though I struggled with the elevation up there that day, that was one of our best ones ever, especially once you got close to the lake.
Yeah, and some of this course was very similar, especially on the north side of the lake. We had done the early part a little bit in reverse, and then we did go up to Holcomb Valley, which is gorgeous. But we kind of went further east, which was a little, was pretty rocky. I was glad I had 42s, but if that was the worst part, like I've been through far worse. Now, I mean, for a lot of people, it was also their first maybe gravel ride because, they had 4 different distances for road rides. And I'm guessing they probably had about, between all the events, probably about 1,500 people, maybe more. And that's
Wow.
pretty big considering, they have, the community probably surrounding the lake itself is probably only has about 20,000 people.
Right.
So, they shut down the streets, or they have a lot of traffic detail there to help people around. The organization was fantastic. I mean, for a 50-mile ride, there were 5 pit stops between the start and finish. So basically you went like every 7-8 miles with a pit stop. And I obviously skipped a couple. But the second half I'd done a little bit before. They had some pretty raging single track that was about a couple miles, which just was Mr. Toad's wild ride. It just went every single direction. Your best to get out a piece of spaghetti to try and, get yourself around. And that part was fun. And, there was under 4,000 feet of climbing. Which I think was a proper ride, especially being at that elevation.
I was going to say, it's still an elevation. That's a lot.
Yeah. And, our friends from Redlands, Brian and Michael, got to ride with them. And, they noted that like in years past, the course had been definitely more difficult, maybe a couple thousand feet of climbing more on the south side, which was featured in our video, but they kind of dipped a little bit more into the Angeles Oaks area, which you made another video with them about. But what had happened, I guess, with this event was we were supposed to go north around Holcomb Valley for a few extra miles, but I think it was a couple years ago, the Radford fire had affected the area, and they had to reroute, which I was actually happy because Michael and Brian had recon that area before, and they said it was pretty rocky. So I thought from what you could have had, this was a shorter, sweeter version. I really loved how it all came together. And one thing I regret is it's kind of like a festival. They have, like a poker ride the day before. They also have a night glow ride. And then there's a Sunday shakeout ride. And you basically can make it a big event, which is smart because, you start at 6,700 feet and you get up to about 77. So I think when we did it, remember that was during COVID, and the 4 of us each drove separately.
That was terrible.
And I think we were following Bill, who drives at a different cadence than us, and keeping up with him on that climb. I think we kind of gained a little too much elevation too quickly.
Too quickly, for
And
sure.
that was a big adjustment. And for me,
Yep.
I could only leave the morning of. I woke up at 4, had the car packed. I quickly jammed out of there. But I did take my time going up the highway, stopped even a couple times just to not get elevation too quickly. And I don't think the elevation affected me too much during the ride. So was a fantastic event.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, now you go up there more than me, but not for gravel.
No,
How do you adjust when you go and do? Because you go up there for the mountain biking.
I do. We go really early. We get there. Our race is a cross country mountain bike race at Rim Nordic Bike Park, and our race typically starts at 10. So I get there 2 hours early, mainly to get a good parking space, but also to pre-ride. You can't pre-ride the course. So we just ride around in the parking lot at the ski thing across the street for like a half an hour. And then there's a gravel road that goes up by the lifts that we use to get some dirt under our tires. We're already at elevation. It's not for elevation, but it's just to get some dirt under the tires. And we do that for half an hour. And that, if I don't do that, I can't even do it. Bill and I went recently and we pre-rode it. We just started on the course and I couldn't catch my breath for like an hour or more. It was horrible. So you have to do, at least I have to do, that kind of easy warm-up pre-ride. Then you get some efforts. You do 3 hard efforts, and then you come back like close to your start time, like maybe within 6 minutes of your start time, and then you're okay. But for me, the elevation is just a killer. I have to get there early and warm up slowly, and then I'm okay. It still takes a half a lap before I feel like I'm like race ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I lucked out. It's always hit or miss for me. I just wanted to get smoothly through the first half, which I did, and then here during the Holcomb Valley part, which just is absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
Was pretty glad to, and yeah, it is a San Bernardino forest, so it is drone friendly. So I pulled that aside, and it was funny when that little cabin, that's kind of like a recreation because I guess they discovered gold up there in 1860.
Yeah, I was there.
I heard my drone, and then like I put my drone down, and then I still heard this buzzing, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And someone else was flying one nearby too. So
you're not the only one with a drone.
Yeah. So just a little hello here. This was Anton. He was actually there with me when this happened. Anton really crushed it on the downhill. My camera, and I'm working on the video. He is in the video already 2 times, but he was really ripping it down this part that was really shredding and was very rocky. Unfortunately, it was so rocky, it jiggered my battery out, and I didn't catch any of that part.
Oh, no.
Yeah. There's also a lineup of Jeeps, too, so that was kind of interesting. And then also, just to thank Gravel, it's Friday. This is good news. Bringing the Endless Summer Ride back in November. I guess, can we wear our same Hawaiian shirts?
No, Dom. I'm going to get a new shirt. Everyone, I'm going to get a new shirt to show how change for the better, to embrace the Hawaiian.
Uh-oh. Someone just dropped
Being my mind on that.
Okay. Well, let's move into the LA Tourist Race. As you know, this was probably announced about a month ago, maybe already, and it's a little bit different, this Trans San Gabriel, than previous editions. The previous editions, for the most part, have been,
Roll your own.
Yeah, you've got 4 checkpoints. It typically is taking you about 80 to 100 miles to finish those, depending on your own course. Some pretty tough climbs. It's self-supported, but this is a whole other beast. As I mentioned in the little title there, it is a set course, but it's also 222 miles. And it starts at 8 a.m. September 30th, which is Saturday, and you have 36 hours to finish, which would be 8 p.m. Sunday night, which would be a little bit in the dark. And we made the route recon video, which I'm still speechless about, because making it and trying to fathom doing it, just doing one tourist race. This is basically doing 3 tourist races in one. And yet, when it came out there, I know it spurred some curiosity between you and me and Bill and Sam. Bill had an excuse that he loves his family and is going to help his daughter move out to school. So if I could put a poll up here, if that's the correct answer, actions, then we'll see. And then I discovered that the night before, I had already bought tickets to, believe it or not, there are other concerts other than Taylor Swift. We got tickets to go see the Cannons at the Greek Theater the night before, and we had friends coming into town. And yet you and I talked the other day about still doing it. And I just was like, man, how do I go to sleep after that? And then I have to have everything packed, but wake up the next morning and be good to go at 8 a.m. And yet here I am. I'm still talking about it like it is something we can do.
You have to add it to the adventure. That's part of your transcontinental journey. Lack of sleep and family members.
Well, to be honest with you, I did not sleep for Big Bear. I meant to sleep. I tried going to bed around 10. I just was kind of like staring at the ceiling. And then Taylor Swift again. My wife somehow got tickets to the concert. She held up a big sign. She got VIP tickets for, you're not going to believe the price, so I won't even bother to say it. Pretty cheap. But she came home. She was loud. I had trouble falling asleep, and I just was staring at the clock until it went off. So I didn't sleep.
That's the worst.
But maybe that's part of the training itself. But we've all been circling, and people can watch the video, whether this is something we can actually do. Now, I don't believe it is doing 3 tourist races because we would not be doing it at the same pace. For example, when we do a rock cobbler, sure, there's times where we definitely exert ourselves kind of hard. We chase people down or try and keep a good pace. But I think for a ride of this length, you really have to throw it out the door. And basically, it's like a casual ride pace, or at least that's what you should keep the whole time. Because I think any exertion along the way is just really going to mess with you further on. Comments?
You froze up for a second. Any exertion along the way, what?
I think you're just going to pay for further on. You and I were even talking yesterday, like, for example, like, I can't stop because I don't think I can start again. But
it's really hard to get going again. I mean, I wouldn't say I can't stop. You can't stop for very long. I was thinking, some people sleep. And it's like, if I go to sleep, I'm not going to wake up. I'm going to sleep for 8 or 10 hours or something. So I can't go to sleep, really. I'd have to stop and rest, I guess. But I can't imagine, doing a big stop. I don't, when Paul did Unbound XL, I don't think he ever went to sleep. He said he was hallucinating on the bike. So he was like awake for 34 hours or something like that. Or semi-awake. I would imagine it would be something like that.
And I think that's like the interesting part, because we were planning on kind of doing no longer 4 Musketeers, but 3 Musketeers of doing it all together, staying with each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
So, when you get to those certain points where maybe one person is way too tired and one person is still a little jacked, like how we would mitigate that. And I just think obviously, but my opinion would be the lowest common denominator. If someone is super tired, then we all rest.
Oh, we would have to. That's the pact, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
Now, maybe I will. Gotta put my water down. Let me just bring up the course here a little bit, and we'll do a little live replay, and we'll kind of talk it through here a little bit. But so, as you can see, we start here out of Let's Ride Cyclery. This is in Burbank, right next to Porto's. We'll probably be open at that hour, but we're not going to wait in line. And it takes you right down the LA River path. And so quickly right here, you get 10 miles off really quickly.
Yep.
And this is all paved.
Yep. And flat.
Yeah. And then you weave your way up through South Pasadena, Highland Park. And, this is kind of, you kind of get on the route a little bit for the, not the Montrose ride, but you pretty much parallel a good part of it. And you head out to Azusa. You go past Baldy as we get out here. And then like around mile 50, after we've been following Route 66 for a good part, then you get a little bit on the Pacific Electric Trail, which was a former Red Line that was from the late 19th century, disbanded in the 1950s. And then we start to wiggle our way, kind of up into Lytle Creek. And, a good part along the way is obviously there's a lot of places to stop for water and, for food. The biggest issue here is, your first major thing is right here at Melody's Place, which is about mile 70. That's your last chance general store to grab food. I don't know exactly what they're carrying. I don't know how much we would be raking everything out. But obviously you don't want to carry a lot of stuff until you get there and then fill up. But really, like, that is your last chance to really buy a whole bunch of sundries for probably about 130 miles.
Oh, man. No way.
Well, you can't buy food at a couple places, but that is, the probably where if you want Cliff Bars or certain things. And then here, at mile 75, that is pretty much where pavement ends, and then you start your climbing. And we've always talked about doing this loop here up Lytle Creek. And if you reference the video, it's a little rocky. I think it's definitely doable. It averages I think about 8%, but obviously, it's not totally consistent. But this is where, you've seen the gearing on my bike. I've got a 34 in the front, 34 in the back. I'm definitely going to need a much bigger ratio because I think spinning and definitely not grinding is the most important part. I think you're winning if you're spinning. The more you grind, the tougher it is going to be later on. And then, yes, there is food here up at Mount Baldy Lodge. I wouldn't necessarily get my plan was, not to get food there. Maybe you could pick up a candy bar or two. But my plan was you get up there, there's Wi-Fi, and then you kind of call down to Mount Baldy Village where there's that Tour of California sign. You can order your food down there. And by the time you get down to Mount Baldy Village, it'll be ready for you. Because I don't think waiting an extra 20 minutes to get food up there is going to help. And I think they have a better selection. But, here at Mount Baldy Village, you're already at about mile 85 or 85 to 90. Yeah, you still have a lot more space left to go after that. So that is about about 35% of the way. That is probably you'll hope to get done by 4 or 5 o'clock, but it gets dark at around 7. So that's a point of like where you just say maybe I'm just done for the day, and just go down the rest of the way, or just kind of see where you go from there. Getting back to it, then you go up Glendora Ridge Road, and then kind of before you turn down, you hit the 100-mile mark, and then somebody noted on the YouTube video earlier today, gave a couple good notes that they did move the water at Camp Williams back here. There is still water, but that's very important to be able to grab some. And you're all paved over here. And then you kind of go around the reservoir, where right kind of past the off-road vehicle area, you get onto the Rincon Trail. Now, the same person noted today that there's actually, I guess, a hose behind the fire station. That's kind of typical in the forest, but I've just never explored that area. So once you get up the Rincon Trail, that is a 26-mile section of dirt. And right now, the middle section is closed from the Bobcat fire. I know the lowlifes have been working on it and have been cleaning it up. And they've been granted access to help clean up the area. But still, I believe they're supposed to make a determination at the end of the month.
Hey, explain who the lowlifes are for people who don't know, because that sounds kind of weird if you don't know.
Lowlifes is kind of named after Mount Low, but they're a trail advocacy group, and they have been working on a number of trails here. I'm blanking on the other trail off of Big Tahunga that they worked on. But they did fantastic work on that. And, this Rincon area really gets hammered during the wintertime. And, a lot of places do not get work until the summer, because that's when they need the roads open for fire access in case something comes around. But as you see, you come out and you hit Red Box over here that has a pretty reliable water fountain. But right now, by the time you hit there, it's going to be dark. My guess is it'll probably be about 11, maybe 12 o'clock at night. Hard to say. After traveling all that. Now, Vic and I talked a little bit, if we do this, that we need to recon a couple areas. And the Strawberry Peak area here, which we'll kind of reverse around, that is a 6-mile section of single track, which I think is the only set of single track for 222 miles that we would have to recon. I've never done it because I've only seen people on mountain bikes, have tires ride it. The 6-mile section, you only averages 1.5% of gain, but as you kind of see here, you climb a lot, then you dip a lot, and then you kind of come around. And what really concerns me about this area is fatigue. Doing single track on a gravel bike, I believe I would probably do a lot of walking at that hour. I think maybe you could chime in on this too. If you kind of hit that area about midnight, 1, 2 o'clock, I think I'll still be awake enough to handle that if I get a good enough amount of sleep. But I don't know. What's your feelings about hitting something like that?
My feelings are, it sounds daunting. I really, like I said before to you privately, I really want to pre-ride some of this stuff. A lot of it we've done for sure, but some of it we haven't. And, on a gravel bike, like you said, and some of the single track in the dark, it might be super challenging. So obviously we need good lights, we need confidence, and we need a little bit of luck to get through there. That's what I feel.
Yeah, that will definitely be a big gut check of where we're at and if we can pull through there. Now, this whole the 6 miles of Strawberry Peak actually leads into Josephine Peak Road, which is about 2.5 miles of downhill, which is a lot of fun, but there are a couple sandy corners. I got some typical video of me crashing on one of them. And, that's one of those things at night. You definitely, even though you can really go down really quickly, you really have to take it careful and get through that. And then, right as you get off, there is water. So that's about 10 miles between Red Box and Clear Creek of getting water. So right past there, we're at the 150-mile mark, which is, I guess, 2/3 of the way done. And now this is the harrowing section right here. We go on Angels Forest Highway, and then we make it to Fall Creek here. And I'm hoping everybody sees this because, the downhill, very windy. You can't see exactly where you're going, and you have to actually cross the river. And you did this on the LA Tourist Ride with Bill a couple of years ago. Do you have any memories of this?
Yeah, I remember cursing a lot. And I remember Bill got a little loose on that section and went over the bars, but he was okay. No, I keep saying that. That was a different section. I'm sorry. But I just remember that whole thing was really hard, but doable. It was doable. And the thing that saved me before was Sam's recon. Sam had sent pictures because he did a little recon, and it really helped because even with the GPS, with the map on my head unit, some of the trail was like, it was not obvious where the trail went. But I saw the pictures and Sam told me where to go and it worked. So I think recon is super important for some of these sections. Maybe.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. Definitely. This would be the second section that we would definitely recon.
Yes.
And that's just the downhill. Because I remember when you did it, which was in springtime, it was overgrown. So this time of the year, I imagine it may be even far worse. Hopefully there's been some work done, but I mean, you can't cut down all this vegetation in time for fire season. But this area here, this is the other scary part, is this Fall Creek climb. I think it averages 8%, and that's even with the middle section that flattens out. And I believe the top section here, the last 2.5, 3 miles is near double digits. And what I remember you or Bill telling me before, it's a little sandy. And, this 11 miles, I think, is a really big slog. And, Kent, who's basically won, or Kent Hammond, who's won, I think, almost every single tourist race. I think he set the time for this 11-mile section for 1.5 hours. But I would say, if we're doing this, double. If we're doing it at 2 a.m. in the morning, how much riding we're going to do is very questionable. I mean, before he has KLM, it was 2 hours was the time. Well over 2 hours, like 2:15 before people actually raced it. So those are probably people just trying to get through it. So so that's why, my plan was you reach Camp 16. It's a semi-developed enough of an area, the most developed area we'll see for a while, to rest ourselves. But, that is our last big monumental effort, but there's still a lot of efforts left to go. And I was going to say this would be a great place to rest, but if we get there at 5 a.m., how much rest can you actually do? But like I said, if we're not exerting ourselves too hard, then that might be able to buy us some decent sleep time. From here,
Well, okay. So what's decent sleep time? An hour, 2 hours?
I'd say 2 hours. I think like a couple hours might get us going, and if somebody decides to sleep 4 hours, you might have to wake them up. Um, but we'll have to discuss between the three of us how much sleep we are going to give each other. Um, but like I said, obviously this is a little fluid. We've never done a race like this before. But like I said, there still is a big effort here, and that is the Mount Gleason climb. Luckily, it's paved, but when we just did our Mendenhall Ridge video, that was 2 miles at about 11%. So, like I said, if we can not exert ourselves and really focus on spinning, that might be a little bit more palatable than the way that we tackled it on there. Now, from here, things get a little bit lighter. We've got a 7-mile descent, which takes us down where we do our Pacific Crest Trail crossing. And this is where things get a little, how do I plan this out? Because most of the times when you go by there, people actually leave water for hikers there. But will there be enough water for bikers? Will there be water at all? And we just saw the 175 mark over there. And I know there's a fire station or kind of like a service area right here. I've never investigated to see if there is water attached, but it is pretty isolated. So I don't know what to expect coming out of there. But we're already talking when we get here about 30 miles without water. And you still have a couple of, here's one dirt line. And I don't know if you remember when we did this last, but there's like two, like, they're not difficult climbs, but when we've even done it on our little 50-mile loops, they're very not welcome. And then when you get kind of near Magic Mountain,
They're not welcome.
Yeah. But when you get to Magic Mountain, it's actually paved, but a lot of it is kind of loose. And I remember, crashing a couple times because it got, it was definitely in bad shape. And then another issue, which I'll pull up over here, they recently fixed this area because of a landslide, but another area had just been wiped out. And so I don't know how navigating that will be. So from here, this is kind of like our last big climb up to Camp 9. That climb isn't, well, compared to everything else, it's probably about 5-6%. I think about 3-4 miles to get up there.
Piece of cake.
I don't know if we'll be saying that hour, but that is the last really big effort we'd have to pull to get through this. And then, at Camp 9, you can get into the back door to get into some bathrooms. There is water, even though the main water fountain's out. You can find water on the side. And you'll be in daylight, so maybe the crew will be playing pickleball.
Yep.
So then, hitting camp, after you go past Camp 9, it's a lot of dirt. You head down the Beast, which fortunately at this time, you're not climbing it because it does have some super steep sections. But as you can see, the 200-mile markers here, and that probably puts us at about 55 miles between guaranteed water, which is kind of scary. Not to mention, like I said, you're probably about 130 miles away from buying food to carry. And then there's the Chevron here. The Chevron doesn't have food. I know you'll stop being a vegan and run into Carl's Jr. and buy everything that they have.
Triple burger with extra meat.
And then one little climb here, and then I really do appreciate them going down to San Fernando bike path. They've just extended it at the beginning of the year. So pretty much, you have like about 10 miles of being protected.
And I think that's pretty much all downhill or slightly downhill.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty flat for the most part, or downhill.
Yeah.
But like, you have to consider at this point, like you really don't want to ride in traffic. If you're just really, I saw you guys after the last tourist race on Hollywood Way.
Were we disoriented?
Yeah, so I can just only imagine that. But then, there is some bike lanes on Hollywood Way, but kind of a little bit once you get past the train tracks. In that
Yes.
last mile here, you are in the street. And yeah, we'll see how we would navigate that. And so, yeah, I don't know. Whenever we talk it through and try and come up with, just actually see it right in front of us. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. If people have any questions or comments on it,
It's not super motivating, is it? I don't know. I think it's like, it's super intriguing, like the challenge of it. But the reality of it is it's going to be super, super difficult because I've done pieces of it, like I said, a third of it, and with you, different sections of it, and to string that all together into one ride it's a lot. I mean, and it's almost an Everest with the gain you get, which is a lot.
And you're carrying your own supplies.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing you have to think about, which I didn't bring up in the video, first of all, you definitely you could even just have a whole show just on charging, charging your lights, charging your GPS device, how many chargers you bring. Another important thing I think is eyewear. I don't know if people see me lately, but I've bought like these clearish Oakleys, Sutros that actually do well at night and at daytime. I don't seem to notice that they darken during the day, but they actually do, and just enough to make me not squint while I'm out there. But really, how much food would you need to get through that much riding?
You have to calculate the calories and whatnot, like, what you burn. And I mean, we're going to burn mega kilojoules. Like, it's going to be, I don't know. It's going to be a lot. I'm sure there's a way to calculate it. We have all these ultra endurance guys. They figure it out. I was also thinking about, like, somebody's going to flat or cut a tire or something. You have to be prepared for that. Maybe even carry a whole extra tire. Like, I don't want to be burdened weighed down, but it'd be stupid not to carry, kind of a lot of spares.
Yeah. When I haven't made the video yet, when I did my Lost Coast trip, that was almost 300 miles and 28,000 feet of climbing over 3 days. And the last day was 140 miles and 9,000 feet of climbing. A lot of tailwind, but I had done 2 days of pretty rigorous riding, not a lot of sleep. And so, my strategy for that third day was, I started at 6 a.m. and I wanted to get back in daylight. So I told myself if I averaged 10 miles per hour, including stopping, then obviously I would make it back in time. So, the first, 3 hours, I just kept a pretty easy pace, kind of like, if you're riding with your family. I didn't go too hard, 12, 13 miles per hour. And it slowly just started to tick up as I went. And, I was hitting like all my benchmark times ahead of schedule, I was able to stop and eat and not feel too rushed. And the fact that I hit the halfway point before noon was like a really good sign. I even was able to stop into Fort Ross and look around a little bit too, which is a little bit past there. So, when I crossed the 100-mile mark, right before I got to the 100-mile mark, I still felt really fresh. And my last 2.5 hours was my fastest. I rode that last section kind of from the Russian River to Petaluma at like 18 miles an hour. And, that's including, I'm on my heavy steel bike. I've got tons of video equipment. I've got all my clothes. This was my first time bike packing and I was overloaded. So, a lot of things were working against me, but like, even when I, reached Petaluma, I felt great. I wasn't totally wiped out. And that's why I credit, because normally, when I do something like a rock cobbler, I fire some bullets early on because I'm like, you know what? I need to get ahead. I need to get out of the way. Well, Mammoth Tough, I'm familiar with the elevation in the area. And, Mammoth Tough doesn't have the narrow, is narrow roads. So there's plenty much space to ride at your own pace at Mammoth Tough, where something like
but
some of
you
these other
took
events.
off. You took off on Mammoth Tough.
Well, but that, like I said, though, that was like probably that early section where I just wanted to get ahead of people, because that was probably one of the few bottlenecks was at the very start. And, I'm not going to bring up the fact that I have the KOM for that section because of how fast I was going. I know you thought I was going to say it, but I didn't.
Pacing.
Yeah. But I mean, like, there's certain times where you say, I need to go a little bit faster because it'll pay off to be ahead. And sometimes you say, me getting up over here faster is going to pay off in the long run, which is something you can't do for this ride. I think you just really have to each tell everyone, hey, stop. Especially, that first 10 miles where everyone's going to want to really chug down that bike path. You can really clock off the miles quickly early, but you really have to stay outside that zone. So I don't know why I can't get comments anymore. It kind of stopped about 20 minutes ago, but I know there's a lot of people here. And maybe they're just the talk of this is just sterilized everybody's hands from being able to make any remarks.
Maybe you pushed the wrong button.
Maybe I did. I think like basically we're going to continue to talk this over. We will try and figure out if this is something we can do. I think we'll still prepare for it, kind of like we're going to do it.
I'm definitely willing to try to do it, but I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to conquer it, because anything can happen. It's a lot. But I'm fully in. If we're going to do it, let's do it.
Okay.
We got to get Sam. We got to get Sam though. Bill ejected.
Now, Nehemiah messaged me earlier in the week that he was interested in doing it, but then I had told him that I didn't think I was doing it. That was before you had come talk to me into all this. So Nehemiah,
come do it. Come do it, man. We need somebody strong to help us.
Yeah, misery loves company.
Yes, that too.
And then our friend Henry. Sorry. This is a little bit nuts. And
he said I had to start drinking.
Well, and here's the interesting thing is that, this event is a week before, Henry's with the Fresno Cycling. That's a week before the Grizzly Century and Gravel Ride up there beneath Yosemite. And I'm planning on doing that. And I'm just like, I hope I would recover enough to be able to do both.
You better recover. You're going to be on your back for a week.
Yeah. So, well,
honestly, I think the sleep deprivation will be the hardest part for me. I mean, not discounting the physical, it's going to be hard, but not sleeping for so long, that's going to be hard for me. So I'll have to. I don't know how I'm going to figure that out. I guess I just do it, and then try to make it up later. And I'll be sleeping for 3 days straight.
Yeah, and then you just made me think about it, because obviously we have to have a bailout plan. But the problem with bailing out here is a good part of the forest has really bad cell phone reception. And so probably from Mount Baldy Lodge to somehow the most remote area here, Camp 16, there's great cell phone reception from here to the Bear Divide section. I don't know why, but that's basically 80 miles between not having any reception.
Right. Well, when you say bailout, do you mean calling your wife to come pick you up?
Calling your wife? Yes.
She won't come pick me up.
Mine will be asleep.
There's no way. That's hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, we have to plan a contingency for all these things. And like I said, I did take a tire with me on that trip, which I didn't need until the third day. And it was actually the tire that was a problem. I didn't actually need to replace an inner tube until I did a shakeout ride a day later. But then again, most of that was, probably about 80% was on pavement. This is definitely a lot more rockier terrain, but we're familiar probably with about 80% of the course. So
right, and that other 20%, I want to sooner than later start reconning and see, especially with the like you said, it might be overgrown, because that can be worse than rockiness. I mean, you can't even see the trail, or you're getting scratched up by that thistle, which is horrendous. Some of the plant life will just really rip you to shreds. So you got to be prepared. What are you going to wear? It's going to be hot. It's going to be cold. It's going to be thistle. It's going to be, who knows? And you don't want to be carrying too much stuff, but you can't go unprepared at all, like I normally do with no jacket. You know me.
Yeah, there's just so much stuff to rack your head around. I just even was having a conversation in my head about sunblock. Will I remember to reapply? Sunblock I like gets really sticky. It starts to get into my eyes after a long extended time. It makes it really hard for me to fall asleep. So then do I carry the other stuff that I have to keep reapplying? Is it heavy? Just so many things go wrong.
Well, we are going to be in darkness for a long period of time, so you should be okay with sunblock.
Yeah, maybe I can wash my face off.
Yeah, you should be okay with sunblock.
It's dark. If I know I'm washing my face. If I'm accidentally washing yours, let me know.
Well, you'll know from this.
Do I expect to see some of the pros show up?
That's a good question.
You know what? People have said, this is a great social media opportunity because you could finish it. It's great. Obviously, there's a lot of intrigue behind it. This sounds something like up in Ted King's alley. Peter Stetina lives nearby. Well, lives in the state. Sounds like something he would do. No, I don't know if he would do it. It just it's
There's no
it's
reason because it's not going towards like his lifetime thing or.
No, but I mean, like, there's some notoriety and being able to tell the tale, which I don't think we'll be able to do.
Well, he does do rock cobbler, so yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
don't know.
we'll have to see. Well, let's wrap it up. I think that this actually worked out really well. How about you?
I do too. I love that you can show videos and stuff. I always thought that was a big miss on the Instagram thing.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think,
it looks good. And it looks better. It looks, I don't know how it looks to other people, but it looks really clean on my phone.
oh, so this is interesting. Telling the vegan cyclists.
Ah,
Yeah. It was funny because I know right before we did Sea Otter, it was Jeremy Bishop, his riding partner, contacted me, was trying to help to do, what were they calling it? It was the Belgian Otter, where they were going to do the Belgian
right.
waffle. And then
Yeah.
they were going to try and ride from there up to Monterey. And he had asked me about dirt ideas. And you're kind of riding, above there, above Big Sur. And I just said, no, it barely shows up on maps. I know that you're going long distances without any water. I'm talking about 150 miles. And it's terrain people don't really know. It may be private. This would be a lot easier for them. And if they do it, thumbs up. I mean, maybe we should just go out there and just set up a pit stop and help people, encourage them.
That's what you keep saying. I don't. If I'm going to go out there, I'm going to try and ride it. I'm not going to go out there and hand out bottles, especially for free. I'd just rather be at home watching, you know what.
Okay, how about we make the GBC relay team? How about that?
That's not a bad idea. But no, we got to stick together because we're gonna have to hold each other's hand at some point.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up, and I think it's a success. We'll tell the world about this. We'll try and bring back, some of our regular slate of guests and new ones as well, because it's a super exciting time as gravel season kicks up again for fall. You can see the video that I did there. Once again, you want to support us, go to Patreon, share these videos, go to our shop. We are working on some new kits. So
Yay.
We'll see what happens. Hopefully you'll see them sooner or later. Other than that, thanks for hanging out with us. Let us know who else you'd like to have on, and hopefully we'll see you same time next week.
Peace.
All right. Later.
Later.